Hello and welcome to week 2 in the psychology of personality. A little bit of a rough start, my fault on that, but here we go. Here we are in week 2 and we are diving into chapter 2, a very important chapter because it characterizes a lot of the rest of the book, and that is the impact of culture on personality. In fact, this is why I chose this particular book, is because it has such an emphasis on culture and society and its impact on who we are. So as you read through the course book and the textbook, you come to the end and you see that we have a discussion and a quiz. In the discussion, what I'm asking you to do is share social constructs that have impacted your personality. Now, what I mean by social constructs are all the sort of things that we see that come about from our culture, our social upbringing, things that we learn about. So things like your age, and what does that mean in terms of who you are? Your gender, and what does that mean? Your race or ethnicity, and even your socioeconomic status. How have those things made you into the person that you are? What influences did they have? What doors did they open? What doors did they close? All of these things shaping who you are. This is really a very introspective thing because part of the mystique of studying personality is that while we are in the process of constructing our identity, we actively do that throughout our lifespan, we are given some pieces that become a part of our personality that we didn't pick. It was just given to us. Those aspects of who we are that are ascribed to us. They're not achieved. They're ascribed, meaning I was born a white guy living in northern Maine, not very rich. How did that affect who I was? Those kinds of things that were part of my early upbringing and remain, of course, a part of me, who I am today. Now, we'll see, this is a particularly interesting time in history when there's much more overt attention being paid to the willful process that we have of selecting these things, particularly in the area of gender, where individuals who feel they do not fit into the binary set of traditional values, norms, and expectations, I'll get to that in a minute, associated with their assigned gender, we have more capacity now than we've had before to select otherwise and take a very much more active part in determining what aspects of either one of those, I call them the pink and blue boxes. There's probably green, brown, and yellow boxes too, but picking those characteristics of our personality more freely than we had before. This has always gone on. That is not new, that we've been able to pick freely, but being more overt about I am picking freely from each one of these boxes that are usually mutually exclusive from one another, and I'm able to construct and build my own sense of self from the pieces that I pick. It's an empowering but yet challenging perspective because of the expectations of society based on the binary perspective. And that, of course, applies to many things in our lives: our career, our age, our race, our socioeconomic status, all the pieces that we gather and what that means in terms of the construction of our identity. Let's discuss. In the quiz, I specifically ask you about norms, values, and expectations. I teach sociology as well as psychology. And one of the phrases that I use to describe culture is norms, values, and expectations. And let me be a little clear about what those are in terms so you can understand the difference between them. Because in some way they're all intertwined, and I'm sure you'll be able to see that. So norms, short for normal. What is considered normal for you? What is the standard things that are around you, about yourself, about your family, those kinds of things. Values are what is important and in the order that they're important. So we have all the things that we consider a natural part of our society, the norms, and then we have values. Expectations is when things get a little wonky. Expectations, you can kind of paraphrase it, I guess, sort of like, what do we think is going to happen if this happens? So it ties in norms and values, but expectations is what do we think is going to happen when this, or if I meet this is related to the question of the role of police as we've seen the diverse kind of behaviors that we've seen. When I meet a police officer, what am I expecting them to be able to do and do for me? And how does that express itself in reality? When I have expectations of something and that person or system or institution or whatever does not live up to that, then that's when my expectations have been violated. Now, what I want you to think about is your own personal norms, your own internalization of what the world is like, what's normal for you. And that excludes a lot. I mean, we're very cultural centric or egocentric or ethnocentric. What we think is normal is pretty much what we've been told is normal. And, we don't eat live spiders on a regular basis like some other countries do because it's not considered normal part of our behavior. If we were raised there, we would consider that normal. Then we look at our values, again, very much learned from our environment and then adopted and constructed into our personalities. What do we think is important? And then expectations. You're all going to college, and isn't there an expectation that if you go get a college education, you're going to be more marketable and you're going to maybe make more money and you'll be happier in the work that you're doing? All of these, where'd you get that? Where'd you get those expectations? And so, but those are built into that upbringing that you have that have shaped, in a way, who you are. So in this particular quiz, I'm asking you to reflect upon your own personal norms, values, and expectations and how they have shaped who you are today. So that's the quiz. I have made a slight change in the timeline and I moved the Sigmund Freud chapter into next week. So the only thing that's due this week is chapter 2. Then you'll see from this point on, almost every week, we're doing 2 chapters. Each time kind of evening that out, finalizing the schedule of events here in our class. So we were off to a rough start, but from what I've seen, it's a great class, very conversant, got some great postings out there. Again, I'm reading the discussions, but I'm not commenting. I'm just letting the flow most of the time. And I'm very pleased with what I've seen so far. Looking forward to grading your first quizzes and looking forward to what we can do in our discussion about social constructs that shape our lives. So this is forming a template so that when you go into all of the different theories, we see them in their cultural context, which is ultimately the goal of this course, to see that our personality is a mix of what we're genetically endowed with what society has taught us, and with what we've actively chosen to construct our personalities. So, looking forward to this continued journey, and have a great week.